These stones have become crucial to our way of life.
Les ça c'est le cobalt.
They are called cobalt, essential in green technologies from electric cars to rechargeable batteries. But while its stock price is predicted to soar, there are minerals that are worth billions of dollars. The people who live and work here are paying a heavy price.
This
acid.
Acid.
Yeah.
Sikundi muzalaka badadangu mtoto kanyuyu.
The Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC, is sitting on nearly 20 trillion pounds of natural resources. It should be one of the richest countries in the world. Instead, most people here live on less than £1.50 a day. Backed up and ready to sell, 70% of the world's cobalt comes from the DRC. It's a critical component in batteries for electric cars. But helping rich countries hit their environmental targets comes at a cost to the people who mine it, like Emmanuel and Robert.
Do you have family?
Around a quarter of the country's cobalt comes from these makeshift operations called artisanal mines. They are run by a local cooperative of miners who get a license from the government. There are so many little tents all over this place. Under it, there are holes. They're told us some as deep as 100 meters. These young men go down to dig for minerals. You see these bags? They are minerals. This will be taken to the cobalt market to be sold to international buyers. Emmanuel wants to show us what the mine is like, but insisting it's too dangerous for me, he agrees to take a camera instead. While I wait above, Emmanuel clambers down what looks like an endless dark tunnel. In fact, Emmanuel descends for ages as the mine never seems to end. These men do this every day. These young men do this every day. So for them, it's a day job, but it's a very risky job. It's a very, very risky job because imagine going deep underground in darkness and just digging for something. This could collapse at any moment. They meet a team of diggers taking a break. It isn't the only team down here. In fact, there are many working multiple channels, all following whatever seam of cobalt they can find. And when they find it, they set to work getting it ready for the market.
Ndio ashuku weka mu mansaka.
Fanya mizi munsaka, fanya mizi munsaka. Iyo byote ndio vingi.
They work long hours with barely room to move.
Sasa mnaishi mnespire tu bien.
Respiration
Atupatie mu.
They earn about £3 a day, more than most in the DRC, but it's still very low. Artisanal mines like this are built in the shadows of vast industrial mines. The huge pits provide the bulk of the world's cobalt. Every industrial cobalt mine is majority owned or operated by foreign countries. Usually it's the Chinese, while the DRC itself owns only a minority stake in most mines. Just a few years ago, Kolwezi was a sleepy town, but it has been transformed. Anywhere you go, towns and cities across the world, you see monuments of heroes, leaders, and important figures. But here in Kolwezi, they celebrate miners and their equipment. This just shows how important mining is for this community and for the country in general. But scientists and doctors are increasingly concerned about its impact on public health, because pregnant women in this region have concentrations of heavy metals in their blood that are among the highest ever reported. The artisanal mine has important visitors. A team of doctors and scientists have traveled to Kolwezi to conduct some pioneering research.
Il y a beaucoup de poussières, il y a une exposition assez forte aux poussières minérales quand ils creusent les minéraux. Et donc nous voulons examiner leur état de santé pour voir quels sont les problèmes de santé que l'on peut rencontrer dans l'exercice de leur métier.
Last year, they published a landmark study into how newborn babies are affected by mining. It showed that copper and cobalt miners in a city 200 miles away are 5.5 times more likely to have children with birth defects. Now, this team wants to find out if the same is true here in Kolwezi, the epicenter of the DRC's cobalt trade.
We want to see the birth defect because the exposure to certain chemicals, including metals, are associated with birth defect.
Alongside the scientists, local doctors are also trying to work out the scale of the problem. In the heart of Kolwezi, Dr. Billy Mukong has dedicated the last 7 years to helping children with birth defects.
Tutafaa paka vile tunafanyaka donc tutaanza kuita moya moya.
Dr. Billy operated 30 children who had cleft palate last week, and they all came back this week so that he can review and see what help they need. Cleft palate occurs when facial tissues do not form properly in the early months of a pregnancy. It's caused by genetic factors and has been linked to pollution in the environment. Masoud's family has traveled 100 miles to be here and will have to go home tonight. But the doctor has bad news. You spend more time with this patient. What's wrong?
We ask them to not touch the wound. But if you touch with the hands, it can bring infection.
Masoud is 3 years old. He was operated last week, but his wounds are not healing well because some people touched and His mouth is infected, so he needs to operate again next time. It's alarming news for Masoud's mother, who, like many in this clinic, was unable to follow the strict regime to keep her child free of infection. Most of these children come from mining families, which Dr. Billy says is no coincidence.
Alors, quand on est dans notre parcelle, et à côté, il y a une carrière minière qui exploite là-bas toute la poussière qu'on inhale. Toutes ces irradiations vont faire que toutes les femmes au premier trimestre exposées à ces irradiations avec une origine héréditaire ou génétique peut faire que cette femme mette au monde un enfant avec
This is part of Dr. Billy's public health campaign. He has come to the market looking for parents he might be able to help. Before long, he is in a conversation. This man says his child was born with a birth defect.
The baby was born normally, but when he grew, it doesn't work.
Can you tell us more about the child?
On expliquait, est-ce qu'il a bien, donc il m'a expliqué.
It seems extraordinary that as soon as we came here, people started approaching the doctor and telling him, I have a child with birth defects, can you help me? I have a child with, abnormalities, can you help me? With this, small market and small communities. Wherever you go in Kolwezi, you are never far from one of these enormous piles of dust. They are right next to villages. Look at the amount of dust on this leaf. There is a community living here surrounded by mountains and mountains of mineral waste. The dust, which ends up all over town, is one of the byproducts of industrial mining. It's the impact of this dust that really worries the medical community. I've been waiting a phone call from Dr. Billy, and he called last night and he said, I have shown you what I am able to do, which is helping children with cleft palates. But I also want to show you what I can't do, which is helping children with other abnormalities. So today, he's taking us to meet these children and their families. The first child lives a long way out of the city. When we arrive, it's so far off the road, we follow a motorbike that has been sent to meet us. Mutombo is 2 years old and was born with twisted limbs. Dr. Billy is concerned his condition is a result of mining pollution. His father was a miner. He abandoned Mutombo and his then 16-year-old mother, Deborah, the first time he saw the child. It must be difficult to have a disabled child like this in this community.
Mina shindaga ta kukanisa shendage nena machaka nanga kasema nikifike kule ataria ashuke chini bantu batamwangalia muvile batanza kumucheka roho yangu itanyuma siku ndi muzalaka badadangu Mtoto kani huyu? Mapenzi ya Mungu. Kama tena ni Mungu akipenda, ni Mungu. Kama tena kumikona bantu, Mungu yeye mnenjana yu.
Deborah is only 18 years old. She is left with a 2-year-old son. His father and the in-laws abandoned them because they didn't want a disabled child. And she has to look after this child for the rest of her life, probably. Dr. Billy takes me to meet a 2-year-old girl who lives on the edge of this river, which is in a mining area. Kayembe has a condition called hydrocephalus, which means water on the brain. Miriale became pregnant soon after moving here. She spent much of her pregnancy selling fruit and veg at artisanal minefields. Her husband also worked near the mines. When did you notice something was wrong?
Comment est-ce que nous sommes arrivés à découvrir? Vous touchez la tête de l'enfant, ça. C'est fragile.
Yuko naye baba misha kuteswa sana. Kuanzia tu kumwenji moya na hapa yuko na deza na mwenji moya tena. Mimi nateswa paka kuteswa. Mimi natembea na iwe mishona tu kintu.
Kuria kwa kiko nitaka je?
Tunamujishaka. Kubamba kintu ashita bamba mikono yuko paka hivi.
Like many people here, Miriale did not take the correct supplements when she became pregnant. It creates a complicated medical background, making it difficult for Dr. Billy to assess the cause of Kayembe's condition.
Ashikufata kipimo. Ashikunyaki acid folique par exemple. Kumpembeni afuashi kule kuku makarrière. Au kumpembeni kule kuku mamai, ile mamai atuye eta ya mai, shunona parce que shunaba krezer muma nini.
Dr. Billy and his colleagues are not the only ones worried about coupled mining's impact on water. "20 miles away, it's a different river, but farmers have the same concerns as Dr. Billy. 72-year-old Mvula is sure the water here is toxic.
Donc kama tunabebe ile mai, tunamwanga huku. Kesho hata hapa sasa kama tunasema tubebe mai tumwange pa kipande. Mpite 3 jours mkuye mwangalie, mtakuta hii bulongo iko na nchumvi. Inaota nchumvi. Ile nchumvi deja ni acide. Iko ndani. Donc c'est pour cela tunafanya bishima jua kuota mai kutumika nayo.
They say they are doing all they can, but the vegetables are still dying. They blame industrial mines upstream. Research has shown that some rivers in this region are polluted with heavy metals, including uranium, which makes fish radioactive. The farmers are angry because they have already been forced to move once.
Mule njo tunaanza kurimaka tuna produire bien. Tunaanza kutosha mashu bien, lenga tomate tusa, iraanza kutoka bien sana. Tena murikuwa kama bulongo bunaharibika, tunaenda kurima amu hivi kuproduire tena bien sa hivi tunaanza kupataka zamani hakuna. Ni kule tulitoka pa ile fashi tunakuwa tena kuteste huku, mais quand même njo paka vile.
C'est 2 points,
Oui.
10 degrés, 40 minutes, 31.7 secondes.
The scientists have been in town for 4 days. They are along the same river as the farmers. They have come to test it because it has a history of mining pollution. This is very important for the local people because this river flows miles and miles and joins the Congo River, which is a source for millions of Congolese people. They want to know if the water contains toxic metals and if there is any surviving biodiversity. Their first impressions are much worse than they had anticipated.
This is acid.
Acid?
Yeah. We have different pathway of exposure to pollutants, and this is one of these kind of exposure. So as scientists, I can't conclude that can be linked to birth defect, but the sample we are collecting is going to show us.
While Dr. Tony is telling me this, the professor is with a local activist who simply says the river is now dead.
No fish here.
No fish here?
No fish. There is nothing here.
Why?
Because the river has been polluted and all fish has died. You see? Donc avec l'acide, je vous dis que l'acide sulfurique ne laisse rien dans la rivière. Il n'y a même pas de crapauds. There is nothing inside. No life in the river.
Before leaving Kolwezi, the scientists took samples from the parents of Mutombo and Kayembe. The results showed that they had 4 times as much cobalt in their blood as the highest values normally observed in people living in Western Europe. It doesn't prove cobalt caused their children's malformations, but Dr. Billy believes it's another piece in the puzzle. We took our findings to the DRC government, but they did not reply. But the Chamber of Mines, which represents the industrial mining companies, said each company has an environmental management plan and monitoring systems, which measures levels of waste and other surface or groundwater. The industry is taking steps to mitigate dust pollution, but says dust also emanates from other industries. The people we met here in Kolwezi, the scientists, doctors, children and their families, know that their country is rich in mineral resources, which they should be benefiting from, but they are not. In fact, it's worse. They say mining is polluting their environment and affecting their health, and the sad reality is that they feel powerless to do anything about it. Across the world, people demand the latest consumer electronics and electric cars. At the same time, vast industries have been built around hopes that technology will solve the climate emergency. But it all leads to one question: can a sustainable green revolution be built without the exploitation of others?